Do you read me?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Con Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me? Over.
Pacho, this is Con Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. Say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some. Hurrah! What's going on, everybody? Another Baby Friday is gone, and the week is almost gone. Thank God. I cannot wait for the weekend to get started. So, hey, we got a great show all lined up for you today. But before we get started, let's get out of all the pleasantries out of the way, and this show is brought to you by Castle Global Services. At Castle Global Services, they have an array amount of many different types of services, both residential and commercial. And one of my favorites, which we utilize at the house, is their home security system. Not only does that make your smart home by adding a doorbell camera, as well as temperature control monitor, and and having a digitized, and as well as the locks and the digitized unit. Did you know that actually makes any house, or consider your house, a smart home, and it adds a minimum $10,000 value to your house should you ever want to decide to sell it, by just spending a minimal price and signing up for their home security system. So go ahead and check it out. It's at Vivint right there. Just go to castleglobalservices.acnibo.com, and you can check that out and get more information. And there's some freebies and specials that they're having this month as well. Also, are you one of those people that's driving around pretty much on your retirement? Let me explain. While we may think that we're doing well, and that you just got that next promotion, so you went out and bought yourself that Mercedes Benz that you just couldn't have, and that it's probably rightly well earned, but now you just incurred another debt into your to your bank account, and money's coming out of your pocket where you should be maybe not buying that vehicle, keeping what you have, or staying within your means, and then learning to save money and make money and getting out of debt at the same time. So by the time, whether you're in your mid 50s, early 60s, you have accumulated a nice wealth, a nice lump sum of money where you can pretty much not have to worry about anything else for the next couple of years. So check out Primerica. It's all right there. Both links are right there on the show, on the show's bio, and get some information. The worst thing that you can have is you find out some good information. You could probably recommend some people to those avenues. It supports a veteran as well. This guy right here, yours truly. And at the same time, you also, can learn about, again, making money, saving money, and getting out of debt. No commitments, all done. So check it out. And last but not least, the show or the internet, or the freedoms that we get from, talking on this, and not only on this podcast, but, and how we communicate everywhere else. It wouldn't be brought to you not only by this great nation of ours, but by the great Constitution of the United States. So this show is all about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and the right to, and as well as the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. So, what does that mean? Is that, hey, you have the freedom and choice to stick around, listen to me bump my gums for the next, few minutes. And if you don't like what you hear, then that's fine. You can go ahead and swipe left. Check out something else from perhaps sitchradio.com. They have some really great shows like I'd Podcast That, Todd the Bow Show, and where this guy got started at Combat Vet Vision with Aaron Chief Siebert, so who's a great friend of ours, and he's got some really good stuff on there and some great guests as well. So check that stuff out. It supports veterans. All these that I just mentioned are all veteran-ran companies and shows. So support us, and then let's get the word out, and recommend us, like, subscribe, and follow. All right. So with all that good, all that stuff out of the way, all the pleasantries, let's dive deep. So, I was, like I mentioned last week, these, after a while, things just kind of, these things kind of write themselves for what is it I'm going to talk about this week. Although, I do have a booklet right here that just, there's a lot of things that I have written on there. But I was kind of thinking back on, I had a couple of events happen to me, and believe me, it happened. Why do I name it to the best of us? It happens to the best of us because, at some point in time, we think that, hey, we're not going to do this, or we fall prey upon certain things. So back in, and again, I'll throw myself under the bus, or I'll just, I've always been transparent with you, a couple of listeners I have out there. Back in 2019, I was at one of my job sites. I was doing construction. I was doing construction safety, and I was at one of my job sites. I had purchased some as you all know, I love motorcycles. So I had purchased some motorcycle parts, and I was going to work on that. I was going to put in a new suspension on my motorcycle at the time. Anyways, one of the parts were damaged when I received them. The seller, guaranteed me that the parts were legit, and they weren't. So I tried to turn them back, but I was short on some of the money that I was receiving back. So, because again, one thing that if I could tell you, and I've been pretty good at that, is never leave whatever it is that you're utilizing to buy and purchase things. Like if you are, doing something through eBay, don't leave the site or that portal when you're communicating with, whether it's the seller or the purchaser. Don't go off the grid, because now you're not protected. If you're utilizing, Airbnb, for example, never leave that grid or that portal to talk, because again, now you don't have anything, where you protect it, and they can track the messages back and forth. Anyways, so I had bought some stuff on eBay, and I was trying to get my money back. I was short $256 for the money that I asked. So, anyways, I hadn't heard from the guy. I messaged him. I got eBay involved, whatever. But I was at a construction site, and I looked at him. Hey, no messages. Where's my money? So rather than me going on the app, again, I just said don't leave the app or the portal. Rather than me going on the app and seeing, hey, customer service, let me call that number, blah blah. I just like, oh, hey, what's PayPal's customer service? So I went in there, boom, and some number popped up. I ended up calling, probably, you could hear the accent, so you can make up, wherever it is that you called, whatever. But it certainly wasn't the U.S. I could tell you that. And there, I was like, hey, is this customer? Say, yeah, this is PayPal customer service, blah blah. And I was like, hey, I'm still waiting on the money that, it's on my account. And they're like, oh, well, what's your email? What's the account under email? And I gave my email, and, they send me an email because, can you verify your account? And they send me an email. What seemed like it was PayPal seemed very legit, and I was, again, and the key takeaway on this is that they utilize your sense of urgency. And so and that's why it's important to always just take a breather, relax, do everything, calm, because again, they're preying on that. And they're like, hey, yes, sir, can you verify that? We understand that you're very busy, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, it seemed legit. I'm like, yeah. And it's like, well, sir, there's a hold on it. What we need you to do is you need to get a Google card, and, we'll release the funds and blah, blah, blah. Again, mind you. And again, I'm being full transparent here. It was only $256. It wasn't all that much. And so, I went to this, I was on a base, because I was doing government contracting I was at a government site. Anyways, I went to the PX, bought, a Google card, and, I did the instructions they told me. And then they came back, oh, well, were you there at the PX utilizing their network? Because if not, some bullshit line. And then, I was like, no, well, the number didn't, that number in that Google card didn't work. You need to go back. And so, long story short, people, I ended up getting scammed for, a couple $1,000. I mean, it was horrible. By the time I realized, again, sense of urgency, that's what they prey upon, and all these other things. By the time, I finally caught up, but I was so deep in with these fucking Google cards that I knew, I was like, oh shit. I think the worst thing for me was being, facing my wife and telling her that, hey, I just got scammed. Not because she wasn't gonna, uh, chastise me or make me feel horrible, but it just, I had like this little kid, just like, oh my God. And, because I preach, hey, don't get scammed in the Marine Corps as an officer, and don't get scammed, watch out for it, blah, blah. And, it happened to me. Anyways, when I got home and I told her, I was very emotional. I'm not gonna bullshit. And my wife just said, it's okay, don't worry, blah blah. But what I learned from that lesson is that, one, don't ever buy shit with a debit card. Now, me as a financial, now getting, going through the process as a, licensing advice, financial advisor and other things, you have different cool schools like Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, or, Grant Cardone. All these guys say, some say credit cards are good, some say not so good. Anyways, but at least with a credit card, you're protected up to $1 million. I mean, that's the key takeaway. Yeah, you got to dispute the transaction, whatever the case. So I learned that, from that rather quickly. And so that's basically, what happened. And I'm seeing a lot of these things. I just post, if for those of you that watch the show, I just posted something, on the website too, that there's a shit ton of scams out there. Whether your home warranty, your car warranty is about to freaking expire, or among many, or hey, you just you could be the, you just got your cousin from, Kenya just passed away, and blah blah. Those may see the obvious ones, but there's a reason why those things are out there, you know floating on the internet and of emails and all this and all those other things. There's a reason why those things are out there, because obviously people keep falling prey for it. And it's not to say that anybody is dumb or whatever. It just, sometimes we think we're doing the right thing, and lack of knowledge, little to no communication, and you fall prey upon this, and next thing you know, you're the guy behind the phone, like, oh shit, with all these fucking Google cards on your hands, and that they're basically now worthless. So yeah, it was horrible. So and like I said, I just posted something on the VA, on the face on our show's website. There's the one that targets veterans. Now, what really chaps my ass about that is that, to take me out of the picture, say I'm not a veteran, say I'm just some dude bumping his gums, behind this this microphone right here. But who in the right fucking mind, will go ahead and, go after people who basically writes a blank fucking check to, to this great nation of ours, saying, hey, in the event that some shit goes down, you can go ahead and claim this check or cash this thing out with my life. Who would do that? Apparently, because, and again, if the VA is sending out, hey, careful with scams, this is what's going on, blah blah blah, this is please be wary of this, because we would never, we wouldn't do that. So obviously there's people out there, targeting us veterans and even service members, to try to claim, take your money. So that's, I've sat on that receiving end, and it feels horrible. From the mental standpoint, you have shame. You feel shame because you were taken advantage of. You feel like you let, and I'm speaking from my personal experience. You feel like, that's money that just left the table too, that, could have easily gone to groceries, paying off bills, saving for our future, many different things, helping out my kids when they're having a rough time, during that, particularly that year. My son struggled that year, for quite a bit, because the government went on sequestration as well. And, he had to, do what he had to do. And, I could have helped him out a little bit with just some of that money, which, whatever in my opinion, every good parent would do is, try to, when their kids are struggling it's maybe, it's, yeah, it's struggling, it's good for them, but you also want to help them out anyways. So there's a lot of things out there, folks, that people are not, are not always nice. They don't have the best interest, and not everybody's in military support, and they're gonna try to take advantage of us. If not, you know. So here's some things that I guess, from the pacho, got taken advantage of. PageBook is one. If you see an email that comes through, uh, always on the to line, you can always check the email and check the email address. Obviously, it's not, if it's it may look legit, because there's, obviously technology has gotten a lot better. It may look legit, but sometimes it'll say, it'll say at the beginning, so, oh, LinkedIn, that's, I'm just using that as an example, LinkedIn, but then, expand the address, LinkedIn at gmail.com, or some weird shit, that's from another country. It's 9 times out of 10, it's a scam. Or here's another one that you can do is take a screenshot. If you're looking at it on your phone, take a screenshot. And well, tell that person, hey, call me back, whatever, where is that, it's on the phone or whatever. Take a screenshot and then email. Go on the app on LinkedIn, or go on your banking facility or whatever, saying, hey, or call them, say, hey, are you guys sending this out? So so go on, and ask them, hey, did you guys mail this stuff to me? And if they'll say no, we would never do that, then it's probably a scam. I, after the fact, I called, PayPal, and they're like, no, sir, we, unfortunately, we, those are things that we wouldn't do, blah, blah. And I asked them, hey, what's going to happen with my money? And they're like, no, it's not going to happen. We can't do anything. I called Google as well, because they, perhaps call Google, for the cards and see what they can do. And, it wasn't, Google actually said, they try to help me out. And they're like, unfortunately, sir, since, because you bought them, and I knew this because I've had another business that I had in the past was a merchant services provider, which, by the way, is one of the services that Castle Global Services has. If you have a business, the credit cards, so you can process credit cards. But I had a company similar, to that, where I used to provide credit card machines to businesses. And that is true. Yeah. When you transact with debit, it's like saying, hey, here's money. It's cash on hand, transaction. That's, whereas with a credit card, you have some leverage there, or a lag of time before that money happens, so you can dispute that transaction. So again, what Google said is, hey, because you bought them on a debit card, it's pretty much, that money's spent, and with that merchant, and it's in their hands, and we can't dispute the transaction. So I was able to dispute, because I did, towards the end of that whole scam, I did pay, with my credit card, and I was able to recoup some of those funds, but not the rest of them. But money is gone. I mean, lesson learned. And also, I wasn't mentally as well. I was going through some personal stuff at the time. I just wasn't all there at the time again. So it's best that, so, well, let me split the conversation a little bit. So other things that you can do is, again, contact the provider, whoever it is, and see if they send out that correspondence. Obviously, the IRS, and I know these are things that we hear all the time, but I'm going to go ahead and say them anyways. The IRS will never call and ask you for your personal information. If somebody says, hey, can you give me your social security number and blah, blah, or some of these websites, I know, PayPal, they will never call you and say, hey, what, can you give us punch in your login, or reply back with your login, or, send you a hyperlink, or whatever the case. So never do those. So basically, we're here to like I was a Marine Corps recruiter, we're screening to disqualify 100%. Or like if you're in combat, everybody's is your enemy until they prove otherwise. So at that point, you want to question everything, especially, because again, the moment you hit a hyperlink, you enter your information, you just open that, that box, and before you know it, your money's gone. I mean, it's happened, not only with physical money and physical accounts. I mean, those of us, including myself, those of us who dabble in cryptocurrency and whatever case. I mean, hundreds of people have already been, have been, they're, millions of dollars have been taken from, people who've made a lot of good money in cryptocurrency. Their money's been gone, due to some people that, hyperlinks and things like, and they allowed access to their accounts. Now we can sit here and judge them and say, well, that was stupid on their part, whatever the case may be. But again, you know, knowing now what I know then, and by the way, shout out to Dr. Michael Simpson, who we were talking about kind of about this similar, and he said, hey, you should really talk about this stuff on your show. Again, that is best that you know and I know some of you, if you haven't heard, but you never make a decision, an important decision when you're super happy, like, oh yeah, that sounds fantastic. Sign me up for all those things. And then you're like, oh shit, what did I do? Again, sense of urgency. Or when you're sad, or depressed or whatever, again, in any of those times, you don't make any very important decisions. I mean, minor stuff, yeah, but minor or big purchases or whatever in any of those times, because again, uh, you're not in the right place to make those right, or bounce it off with somebody, and that way maybe they'll tell you, that is pretty fucking stupid what you're about to do, right? So, checks and balances, folks. Take a breather, slow down, and then outweigh the pros and cons, and if it makes sense, then move forward. But or take a step back. I sound This is what I used to tell. It sounds like like I'm going through recruiting school, because literally this is what we used to do. Take it. Let's look at the bigger picture, take a breather, blah blah blah, and put everything on paper, and then move forward, whatever it is that you can do. Same thing with these things. There is no sense of urgency, because I mean, there are going to be times where certain things you're going to have to make certain decisions, whatever. But a lot of these scams, nine times, again, they're just preying on your sense of urgency and lack of knowledge. So you want to empower yourself, so that way, again, if it happens to me, if it happened to this guy, then it happens. It's happened out there to anybody else. So it took me a while to, yeah, I really, hammered myself for that one. And it took me a while to, I just let it go. You know what? Fuck it. It's gone. I forgive myself. I mean, there's nothing I can do. It is what it is, folks. So, that's, I really want to get that out there, because, the more we're embracing this whole technology thing. It's like the more of these scams that are happening, and people are being taken advantage of. I mean, hell, back in the day, I mean, it was easy, to walk away from a scam. I mean, it did happen, but at least we had a phone, and we just click, and your bank accounts and everything else was, and there was no thing as internet privacy and this and that, and many other things. So, as we, and I'm sure it's only going to get worse. So, there are products out there, like ID theft, ID seal, and not trying to push anything, but you know but I am, I have something that protects me for as little as $11. I mean, and it protects me, it protects my wife. If my kids were still living on the roof, then I would go, buy something a little bit more, a little bit more robust for a couple more bucks. But there are products out there that protect you, to prevent that. When something like that happens, I get boom, I get an email, hey, did you just apply? I'm like, nope, and I can dispute that, and at least I can protect myself, because, you want to protect not only your social security number and things like that, but your credit rating. It's important. You want to buy a house, you want to make these things, you have plans for the future, you want to be a mover and shaker. Those things right there are gonna, you want to protect those numbers, because in the end, I mean, unless you're already a baller, you made it, you're super rich, who gives a shit, then you can just buy everything, with cash, and no problem. But so those are the numbers that you want to protect, because later on, I mean, it'll come back and haunt you. And that's the thing that we want to prevent. I was hoping that if anybody else had been scammed before, some of you out there that want to share your stories, but that's okay. At least I'm sharing mine and some of the things that happened that and hopefully from my, from my, I guess, what can I say, you know, the thing that happened to me, hopefully you're learning from that, and that way you're not a target yourself. So, but that's all I want to share for you with you folks today on the show. I just want to give a shout out to my friends and family out there, my support network. We did have last week, and I didn't want to share this, but it just took me a little bit because I just kind of want to process it. Somebody very close to our family, you know, they passed away last week, very young, very young, and it's just a shame that any young life with such full potential is now gone, and they're no longer with us. So if you allow me there, dear listener, oh, I'm getting a little bit emotional right now, but um, I just want to dedicate this show to him, and I just wish that although you weren't you didn't take your life, you know I wish I could have been there and done a little bit more for you. So, with that being said, I love you. I miss you. You will be missed, and I hope you're at peace wherever you are. So, I dedicate this show to you. So that's it today, folks. If you're struggling, you haven't reached out to a friend for a while, fuck, and you're going through some things, reach out to somebody, reach out to a friend. And but with that being said, Daisuke, we're gonna go ahead. Sorry for ending up in a kind of a low tone, but I mean low dread. But I just want to get that out there. So, but with that being said, folks, thanks so much for listening. Tune in next week. Ice Tomas and Dex. Hoorah, get some. Bye bye.